There was a roundabout proposal here in Sisseton, and this space was donated or is part of the city property. And the idea is to turn it into a green space that could turn into kind of like a sculpture park. So the Arts Council and the city really made it happen that, a lot of people came together from the community. There's a lot of community support behind it to see it kind of fall through. My name is Inkpa Mani. I'm in Sisseton, South Dakota, and I'm working on Dakushkashka Sacred Movement, a large-scale stone sculpture. Step into my studio. The stone itself is 60,000 pounds or about 30 tons of stone, which came from Mankato, Minnesota. Each stone block is about 3 feet by 3 feet, and it starts off at a 3-foot pillar, and then it goes up 1 foot at a time until it reaches the top one, which is 10 feet tall. And just for reference, the smallest block, the 3 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot, weighs about 1,500 pounds. So the largest one weighs closer to like 10,000 pounds. So it's a pretty big project. This landscape really has a long history of women standing up and seeing that there's a need in the community and making that change now so that future generations can really benefit, kind of reap the fruit from it. So this is dolomite limestone. On the hardness scale, there's definitely harder stones like granite, but it's not an easy stone like soapstone. So it's kind of in that in-between space. Other than size and scale for this project, I think one of the most notable differences is that if you remove something, you can't put it back. So you really have to be confident. You have to know when you're cutting something that depth that it's at, because once it's removed, it's pretty difficult or impossible to put something back in. Culturally growing up, one of the things that like my grandparents would always say is like, the stone is your relative. And I really like that. And I take that mind frame of that the stone is kind of like my grandfather. Thinking about this project, one of the things that really came up to me when talking to elders was the importance of memory. And I kept thinking about that. What is the importance of memory in public art? I think as an artist, you have a responsibility when making artwork that it represents, one, the people who are around in that area, but also the stories that have survived thousands of years in this area as well. I think that's a really great responsibility. In a lot of indigenous cultures, we talk about women as being that backbone of a community, that they're the ones that hold everything up. They're the ones that are able to, hold that structure for a family. When the reservation was first established, a lot of people had a hard time. And it was really women who are the ones that kept those traditions alive, wanted better, and they made this place better. And each pillar behind her are going to be petroglyphs, so modern day petroglyphs that represent the community today. That first pillar will be handprints of the community, and the community will be able to come in, place their hand in ink, and then place their hand on one of 4 sides. And each side will be documented so that in 100 years, 150 years, 200 years, somebody can come back to this community and say, that was my great-great-grandfather's handprint. I have a connection to this land. I have a connection to this community. And it's a way of remembering, that aspect. And each pillar after that, it represents different parts, like the medicines or the wild plants in this area, the agriculture, which has survived in this area for over 1,000 years. Following that is the wildlife. This area has a rich biodiversity. The last pillar, the smallest pillar, represents our modern day existence. If you turn on your car, all those symbols pop at you. And the reason I think about that is because our ancestors had symbols that meant something to them. If there wasn't buffalo, if there wasn't fish, if there wasn't, something to eat, immediately they knew. But our modern day existence is that if our phone isn't charged, we know pretty immediately. Whether we like that or not, that's part of our modern day existence. And I was interested in that because I asked the same questions of the past that I know the future is going to ask. One of the really great parts of this public artwork, this sculpture, is that it's being carved in the center of town. So you have the hospital up there, you have the courthouse back here, then you have Main Street and Highway 10, which is like the main highway that passes through here. And the really great part is that it really demystifies the art making process for people. I think when you tell stories, it gets to a core belief in humanity. It just makes the whole town feel different. You have pride within it.